GPZ 750, and this is a GPZ 750, one of the bikes I'm working on at the moment. And I've also got across the room a GT 750 that is upside down with a sump off. And what I'm doing on this one is I'm replacing the starter clutch, which is this piece here, and I'll just run through the symptoms of what you'll find if you need to replace this. So what it is when you crank the bike, it doesn't actually crank the engine, it just spins the starter motor. So the starter motor's spinning away and nothing's happening. Sometimes you can put the bike into gear and it'll move the starter and the starter clutch and everything, and it might just move it to a position where it'll catch, you know. And what I mean by that is the position of the starter clutch could change, or the rollers could change. I mean, in normal operation, if the engine's running, the position of all these balls, all these rollers that I'll show you in a minute, will move into a different spot in theory, and then you'll have an opportunity to start the engine. So putting it in reverse, sometimes you can get it to turn a little bit or roll a bit. You know, the crank might rotate one way and then flick the other if you're lucky, and then you can start it, and that might be it might start up every time then, or in this case it would never start. And it was a trike as well, so that made it even more difficult to start, because you can't bump start it, and it's hard to push it back, you know, enough to get it to do anything. Anyway, long story short, I'll show you how this works. So this piece in here comes out of the lower section of the crankcase. So that's the crank. This is the primary chain. The primary chain drives this piece here, which I think they call a damper, and then it passes through this shaft to this piece, this gear here, and this drives the clutch, back the clutch basket there, and then it'll work its way through the gearbox as in a normal situation. So to get this piece out, you remove this piece here. This has actually got threaded holes in it, so you can use bolts to pull this gear off, and this plate I think is designed for it because it doesn't serve any purpose really other than to act as a bit of a spacer, and also you can press against it with some bolts. So I think they've designed it that way, and then to get that back on there's actually threads in here, so that's good thinking by Kawasaki. So once that's off, there's a cover plate here. Just grab it. So there's a cover plate there, holds this bearing on. 3 bolts hold that in, so 1, 2, 3. Once they're out, you come to the other side and there's a cover piece here, which is that. Take that off, and then there's a nut, I think it's 24 or 27, whatever size nut it is, it's on there. Take that off, and then this will allow this shaft to come out to the right side of the engine. And then once that's out, you can usually, well, this should all come apart. So if I might be able to do it on camera, or it might just go everywhere. Hang on. There, so the shaft all just drops out. What you've got is a needle roller bearing and a washer that goes on about there. Then you've got the this gear actually is driven by the starter motor, and that's it. So this gear here gets its drive from this idler gear, and then that is actually driven by the starter motor, and the starter motor is just on top of the engine, on top of the gearbox, should I say. So why do these things go wrong? Well, inside this piece here you've got these 3 rollers which are all sprung into place, so they actually roll towards the centre and they actually move closer to the centre line. And there's actually a wedge, so you can see there, that angle there, that's actually the direction that it moves. So the further in its spring, it moves away from the centre line. I don't know if I can show this with one finger. So there, it's further away from the centre and it gets closer. It's not very much. So when this gear turns into that direction, so into the wedge, it locks up, and it should these usually go back in quite easily normally. So that's gone back in. So this direction it's free to turn, and then the opposite way it locks up. So that's the direction that it would be driving the crank, which is clockwise that way, which means that the engine's clockwise from the right. Yeah, so why do these fail? Well, it's a combination of this gear here getting lots of damage, where very, very minor, you know, little pits and things like that, just over the years damage. And these rollers also, these get little flat spots on, you know, so that combination takes away a lot of the, you know, the ability to lock up. So to fix it, you need new gear, and the rollers. You also get the little springs and the little dowels, so you get everything. This cover piece comes off, can't remember how. I think you have to take these 3 bolts out, and I remember them being quite tight on the last one I did. So you get those 3 bolts out, change out all the rollers, and then you can put it all back together. So it's obviously a big job. You've got to take the engine out. You could do it with the bike up in the air on a lift, I guess. You know, you'd be working upside down, or you could lean it over a little bit, I suppose. You could do that, I suppose, because the majority of it is just dropping it out, really. So once you get the sump off, you know, and the clutch cover, that comes off, you can get access to the sides. Yeah, exhaust, sump off. Yeah, I think you could do it. It wouldn't be very nice, but yeah, it would work. So anyway, that's basically what you've got to do with these. Don't know what else to say, really. That's it.